Aisulu, are you with us?
Hey, good day. Yes, I'm here.
Hi.
Hello. How are you doing?
Awesome. Awesome, great. Thank you so much for coming and volunteering again. Aisulu is, I mean, if you've attended the August seminar, you know her. She's a wonderful teacher from Quantum STEM. So last year she was teaching primary science. This year she is now not just teaching, but also doing curriculum development, and like she's responsible for the science curriculum in her school, basically. So that's like a big responsibility in her school. Yeah, awesome.
Sorry.
So we can see the screen. It's good.
Great. I'm sorry. I have probably some connection problems. It was a little lagging, but can you hear me well for now?
Yes.
Yes. Great. So hi everyone again. I'm really happy to share my experience and probably get some new information from you guys as well. Today we are going to talk about CLIL in primary science teaching. So what is CLIL is a content and language integrated learning when science or math or any other subject is taught in a foreign language for pupils especially. So we have to combine these two important things, the content and language, which can be a barrier for students. So what I'm going to talk about today, issues in teaching science and math or science in English, tips about vocabulary, what is scaffolding method, giving instructions, assessment criteria, and practical tasks. So first of all, I'd like to ask you some questions about your experience. Maybe you can write your answers. What are the main difficulties in teaching science in English? So you can just share your answers on this chat. So I'd like to see what is the variation. Probably we have the same vocabulary. I agree. Thanks, Vernon. Right, terminology. Exactly, that's true. Yeah, that's what we're going to discuss because some of the words are right. Terminology again, agree. So these are the main things that children have difficulty with understanding. I see. Well, most of us, you can still send me some messages, but most of us agree that terminology, vocabulary is one of the difficult parts of teaching science in English. So these are the main principles of CLIL. We will, right? It is difficult science. First graders. Right, that's true, because last year I myself taught the first graders, and it was quite challenging experience because children yet don't know how to write, how to read exactly, and now they are overwhelmed with even more difficult tasks. Yes, I agree. So we have to language proficiency. I agree. Yes, thank you for sharing your comments here. So now I'm going to answer some of the questions, some of these concerns you have just written. I agree that vocabulary is the most difficult part. So one of the solutions I have introduced was a drilling method or repetition drill, what is called. It's very useful for primary school students. What I do exactly is I start with giving the instructions. I ask children to listen to me first and then repeat the phrase or the word the same way as I said. This is one of the methods of teaching language, but it can be integrated into science as well. So, for example, I create some even phonics for myself, so I make sure I am giving the right pronunciation and giving them right stress on the word. For example, digestive system. So not system like in many other languages it may sound. So I have to stress on the exact pronunciation, and I have to ask them to really listen to me before they repeat. And they can be choral drilling, which means the whole class repeats after me. Then I can ask small groups. I can divide them into small groups and ask each group to repeat the words to check that if they have actually understood the idea. And then I may have individual drilling where the struggling students can be helped with the pronunciation. So what I really do is I ask, I say, digestive system, and then they repeat, digestive system breaks down. So it's not repeating together, it's giving time to teacher to model the right pronunciation and then ask the children to continue to repeat the phrase. How to do more is creating vocabulary related tasks. For example, I use wordwall.com. It has some interactive games. I create some quizzes, some matching games, and etc. Children are really excited to play these games. They want to score and do lots of more exercises. They compete with each other, as well as I create some exercises as for formative assessment. For example, this exercise is really good for spelling. So children not only learn how to read, they listen, how to pronounce, and of course they learn how to write this new vocabulary. It probably takes 5 to 10 minutes of at the beginning of the lesson. So I hope this also is helpful for you to practice. There are many other platforms that can be helpful to create such interactive games and print some PDF exercises as a formative assessment. Maybe any questions so far here? I don't know, maybe you'd like to clarify, so I can move on to the next part. All right, or maybe at the end we can continue. So maybe you'll have questions at the end. Let's continue to scaffolding method. So as you can see, this is a construction site, and the builders have constructed this scaffold, which helps them to go to the upper floors, upper levels, and it helps them to, support them, and it helps them to be stable at the where they are. So the same method can be used. Sorry, I probably missed. Okay, great, thank you. Now scaffolding method. As I said, at the construction field, the builders need some support to get to the higher levels. And this same idea can be used in teaching science as well. So how this can be done? Let's imagine that this is the level, this is the desired level of knowledge the primary school pupil needs to have. However, there is a gap of knowledge, experience, skills, and etc. So what teacher does is provide the scaffolds, the basics that help the children to have this smooth movement towards the learning outcomes. For example, at the beginning, as you can see, there is a wide range of support. So at the beginning, the teacher should provide a bigger support. And as the student goes, the teacher will provide less and less support in order to make the student less dependent on the teacher and become an independent learner. So the main idea is that you have a lot of support at the bottom, but as you climb higher and higher, you get less support. From my own experience, we had the opposite situation. We had the regular lessons without scaffolding, and I just gave them the assessment that was from the question bank of this EduHub, and they all failed, and they all felt frustrated at the beginning when they faced the difficult tasks. And I did the opposite. Then I made like easier tasks at the bottom level. And so they got the good grades. However, our school team, we had the discussion session, brainstorming, and then we agreed that the scaffolding method would actually be the right way, starting from easy questions, then making them more and more difficult. So scaffolding steps, I mean, modeling, guiding, gradual release, and independent students when they can do everything by themselves. Let's look at some examples. Yes, here we have we have to know, in order to do the scaffolding, we have to know the abilities of students, what learner can do unaided. I agree with the previous comments that the first graders, they have limited skills, let's say, but still we can learn their zone of proximal development, what they can do, and not just skip right to where learners cannot do. So we have to study what they can do with some guidance first. So let me give you some examples how this is done. First of all, I try to replace some difficult phrases, difficult terminology with simpler words. On the left side, there is an assessment which was taken from the EduHub, the original task. As you can see, the sentences are longer, and they may confuse children because they may ask what is when we use, and lots of questions before they get to the main idea. Also, the answers are very confusing for even the adults sometimes. So what I decided to do is produce, replace them with simple words. Why are there some bubbles? Also add some visuals, and then give simple answers with some repetition of phrases, probably because wind is moving air. So B, yes, because we breathe out air. So this is A. Because there is a water in bubbles, D. So I do not change the content, I just present it in a different way. Another example of scaffolding is dividing one complex task into simpler ones. Here you can see there is a two-level question. So a child has to analyze and also focus on which numbers to choose. So answer A would be only 1, B 2 and 4, C 1, 2 and 3, and etc. Instead of that, I have divided this task into simpler parts. For example, balloons are filled with water, air, or wind. So they must choose one of the three answers. And here, kites are filled with what? With air, true or false. So this is one of the ways how to make it simpler. Adding pictures and illustrations. So here we have a situation. James keeps his pet rabbit in a cage instead of the sealed box. So my students would ask, who is James, and why does he have a rabbit, and etc. etc. So they may concentrate on different area, like why is his name James, and etc. So this is from experience. So in order to eliminate all these distractors, let's say, again, simple question: why is the bird in a cage, not in a box? So and bird needs water, food, or air. So since this is the topic about air, they can guess this is mainly because of the air. So this is about adding illustrations to make them easier to understand. Another way of simplifying questions, as I said, adding pictures and dividing them into simpler ones. For example, snow can cause air pollution, true or false? Here, this answer was, this question was, fires can cause, here Tom says snow can cause air pollution. So instead of creating this complex situation, I just started with dividing each question separately. Is this true or false? So to make them understanding. So when I ask these simple questions, they answer very well. However, it's not the end. There are other examples. But after they have learned those simple questions, I designed less supported questions. I call them level 2 questions. So based on simple previous tasks, I design new tasks that are, for example, here I ask, what causes air pollution, snow, rain, or smoke from factory? So from the previous task, they already know that snow or similar meteorological situation like rain cannot cause air pollution, so it must be smoke from factory, or what is not filled with air, balloon, kite, and ball. So from previous exercise, I remember balloons or balls are filled with air while kite is not. So providing them less support. And then the last stage is questions even without pictures. They only focus on the main terms that we have already learned, like breathe air, stay alive, need, burn, to feel, a balloon, and etc. So of course they have some challenges still, but prior they had already studied this word. Designing open questions, I would call it level 4. Here students provide their own answers, so they can use the keywords they have learned from previous. For example, like the latest answers were like, what happens when we breathe in? Chest bigger, they just say chest bigger, take air in, or something like that. So it's very simple answers, but I think it's already good enough for the second graders. For example, so this topic was what happens when different things are mixed with water. Yeah, so we have 4 cups here. There is oil, sand, sugar, and coffee powder. So they had to draw each solution and write some comments. This is like experiment results. And this is what they already used. Pupils could record results using pre-taught and drilled vocabulary. So before starting the experiment, I taught the vocabulary, change, mix, dissolve, think. Yeah, some of them had different answers, float, and etc. So they could do it by themselves at the end. So I just gave list of words on the board and asked them to describe each experiment. So it was easier for them because before they just draw it, and after they could actually record using the proper verbs and other key vocabulary. This is one way of preparing tasks, and the second is integrating instructions in English. So here comes the CLIL.
Aisulu, sorry,
so
we have a
CLIL
question.
Yes.
We have a question in the chat. Yep.
Right. Sorry.
The question is asking
Yes, these questions are for the second graders. Since I'm teaching, so this is second D. So yes, since I'm teaching the second graders, yeah, these all examples belong to the second graders. Yeah, they have been studying air, and now they are studying about water. So how water reacts with other things.
Aisulu, can I ask a question just to try to make sense? So you just showed us the 7 kind of different approaches you can do to scaffold, to help students scaffold more complex language and tasks, right? So in the beginning, you started off with so you break these complex questions into simpler ones, but like when you go down, so you started off with making questions simpler, and then towards the 5, 6, and 7, you make questions harder. Like so there's no picture, for example, here, and the number 7, I believe, was you make it open-ended, right? So so what is the logic behind this structure, going from simple to more complex?
So first of all, it's important that at the beginning, when we just start studying new concepts, to make sure that the pupils are not frustrated, that they cannot do things, to make sure that they are confident about this small steps they are achieving, and then assessing them there and giving them feedback at that point at simple questions. No, yes. This is for the second graders, right? So on the photos were also the second graders, sorry. So it's to make sure that also parents are very involved in this whole process, and they try to help the children do some homework, study vocabulary together with their children. So that's important that that pupils do not feel repelled from studying science because it's too difficult, and We want the opposite reaction. We want them get attracted, feel that they can achieve it, that they accomplish all the tasks, and grow step by step, slowly and slowly, in order to raise their confidence in what they're doing. Yes, I actually was very unfortunately, I couldn't add the photos of real answers, how my half of my students answered these questions, because I was really happy and surprised at the same time that they made the good answers. Most of them did very well. All right. Okay. Yes. To get your yes, sure, I can share my PDF file, right? So I was very surprised that like 50% of students could actually use the keywords to answer these questions. And of course, there are like maybe 20% who have difficulty with understanding the question, which is also good. And some some students even, did a very good job, that they asked more tasks because they finished very early. Yes. So, right, good. Thanks for feedback, interaction. Yes, so these are the second graders. I have been teaching them from the first grade, and this is how they write very small words, like, small verbs, and this is how we grow and go. Okay. Next, probably is just another way of introducing more English into the classroom. Here I'm going to talk about instructions, which is another challenging part of teaching science, especially when we do some complex tasks, so let's say some experiments or demonstration or tests, and etc. There is a small secret of how to give instructions in a right way. So it's abbreviated as REACH. First, regroup. Before giving instruction, it's important to notice what is the activity going to be like. Is it an individual activity that everyone works by themselves, or they're going to work in pairs or in groups? So if it's necessary, we have to regroup all children. Second, we give instruction. For example, tick the right answers, or cross the extra one, or underline, or even more practical ones, circle, highlight, card, stick, tape, glue. So posters in the classroom as a posters hanging, so children could always look at them and not ask every time when we give instructions, but just be reminded gently that this is what you should do. But giving instruction is not the end. The next step is checking instructions. It means it's okay to ask children, so what are you going to do now? Do you need to tick or cross? Do you need to underline or highlight, circle or underline? So we check if they have understood. We check if they know what they're going to do, because sometimes when I give instructions and then I ask, so what are you going to do now? And they have like lost eyes, like, I don't know. So I have to again, maybe repeat it. So before they start doing. And the last thing to do is to give them a handout. Because if I give the handout before, or any materials, if I give them before, they will be distracted with materials rather than listening to the instructions. So handing out materials is the last thing, even before checking the instructions. I know that most teachers struggle with giving instructions. Yes, probably make like a poster, right? Yeah, like maybe hang a poster in each classroom. So maybe I can just point to what this instruction is about and probably pronounce. So tick or cross. And it will all be always be at their front, so they can remember easily. So I think this part is quite clear. And we can go to the next part. It's about poster assessments. Since our school organizes science fair a science fair projects, where science project fair. So I have already started teaching them how to create posters, and in order to do so, I think it's very useful to add a criteria. This criteria will also help not to understand only what is their grade going to be, but also replaces the instructions and checklists. Let's see. So the last thing the last assessment was related with poster was how to reduce air pollution. And then I gave them this criteria reminder, so they don't understand the big text, but they understand what is visual, what is content, text, and color. And if they ask me, should I color or can I just, right, yes, now I'm talking about rubrics, right? However, these rubrics can be just simple short words that are given as a reminder of what is necessary to be done. Like, let's say visuals, it means that they have to draw. Content, it means that it must relate to the question. Text, that their spelling will be also evaluated, and then they have to spell it in a clear way. And color, that they have to use color and pencils, and it shouldn't be just black and white. So all these criteria actually help them also to follow instructions, and they know what they have to do exactly. So this can be very effective tool that we have done. How to care for plants, how to care for pets. Unfortunately, I haven't added the photos of the real answers, but there are some great works. Probably I can send through Sanjar next time, how students do, how they respond to these tasks. And now we can try some practical task. This is from the assessment. It's from the question bank for grade 3, from unit number 3. This is about animals classification. And this is a typical question. Imagine this is for the 3rd graders. And this is a typical question that they have to answer during the lesson, and it's quite complex for them. So I would like to see, like maybe to share our opinions about how to scaffold the task. In what ways can this task be divided into small parts? Maybe we can also share some ideas on the comments chat section. So maybe you have time to read this task and think about how to scaffold, how to make this task easier and then maybe even develop more and more difficult questions.
All right, so do we have some ideas how we can make this task more scaffolded, more comprehensible for the student? Yeah.
Putting the pictures of their animals. Like, according to the pictures, they will find out the features of each animal's classification. Then they can make kind of logical linkage between the animals. Yeah.
That's a great idea. That's awesome. So that helps with comprehension, so they can understand what is the animal like. They can also learn the vocabulary, how to write and read that, or at least how to write how the animal name is spelled. And most likely they know the animal name in Russian, right, or in Kazakh, let's say. So and also they can see the body parts, like you said. So yeah.
Right. Well, can I say how I did? Can I, or other volunteers? Huh? Okay, so Well, what not only me, because we have more teachers that are teaching the third graders. So what we decided was to first ask questions like bear and giraffe. What group do they belong to, like mammals or birds or reptiles and etc. So we asked what each pair of animals belong to, like we divided into small parts first. And also another question was, yes, okay, ask about similarities. Right, right. That's a good idea, right? Like characteristics, similar characteristics, like how they breathe, how they give birth, and etc. Right, right. Right. Yes. Who has fur? Main characteristics like that.
But giving idea with flying, it's actually will be tricky for them because bat can fly and it's mammal.
Yes, it's a good point. That's a good point, right? Because many of them might assume that bat is a bird. Actually, when we have some communication sessions, ask and answer sessions, they actually think that. Yeah, it's very funny at some point to listen to their answers, what they think. And then they try to argue, no, you're wrong, you know. Yes. Get a little emotion.
But like we learned today during the morning session, like that's the whole point of science, to get students to think about content, about the concepts in science. As long as they're thinking about the subject matter, about the content of the lesson, that's good. Even if they're noisy, or even if there seems to be like some kind of a disorder in the classroom, if they're arguing about this question, that means we're reaching our lesson objectives.
Right. Yes, that's funny actually. They are engaged. That's the main idea. And probably some parents tell me that sometimes they teach even their parents when they come home, like, did you know? Oh my God, how didn't you know about this? So this is like what I hear from some of the parents that are my colleagues at the same time. So that's interesting.
Can I say something about this topic? Well, animals, probably most of the kids know something about animals, that they can eat food, they can fly, they can swim. And it's good if we teachers can extend their primary knowledge. So we make sure that they know something at the primary level, what is animal, and what is the difference from human, from animal. And then we can extend their knowledge, showing like experiment, or maybe like classifying the animal, trying to make it. It shouldn't be like perfectly ideal like bat. We can come to this bat later on, but at least we can show the classification kind of system, to show them system, and then they will try to come to little bit details, and maybe some
Exceptions. Yes, that's true. Right, that's the main idea. Right. So, hello? Yes, I may continue with what was my solution is was dividing this so they are vertebrates, and dividing them into just groups, like these are mammals, these are invertebrates, reptiles, and birds, and then identifying that bat is a mammal too and giving reasons. And only after identifying each group of animals, they can be given such a task. For example, what group does a bat belong to? Yeah, probably this can be only as a last point before we just realize what these animals are, like what groups they belong to. The same as with a difference between vertebrates and invertebrates. Okay, so here we also used small questions like vertebrates have a backbone and vertebrates do not have a backbone. So we just give them the main simple ideas, and only after that they can go further. Okay. Another task, the task where the table is involved. So here only the names of the tasks, and they have to identify the groups and name the groups. So this is also like 2-3 level questions. It requires a lot of attention and focus. And before that, we identified that ant, butterfly, and grasshoppers are just invertebrates. What are the vertebrates? What is the classification inside the vertebrate, and etc. Okay, so if you have any questions or comments, you're welcome. Otherwise, my session is over.
Thank you, Aisulu.
Thank
This
you.
was wonderful. Yeah. Please feel free to ask questions from Aisulu, anything regarding her practice, anything regarding science teaching or teaching in English. Yeah. Or you can share your own experiences also with us. Like, how do you tackle the problem of teaching in English to students who are only now starting to learn English?
Thanks a lot. Thanks for listening. Okay.
I have a question. When you plan your science lesson, do you usually start with teaching vocabulary? Like you mentioned scaffolding. So does it part of your lesson? So you first lesson you teach vocabulary, next lesson can be experiment, and then can be like test any kind of.
Yes, that's true. I start with some interactive games, drilling. Then I ask them to, spell the words. But since we are already get used to it, it happens like really like quickly, 5-10 minutes. I just ask the same questions, but in a different ways regarding the vocabulary, I mean. And then we start the real activities like maybe discussion, the experiments, the process starts. And at the end, they have to, like as in previous example, here these children were like writing themselves. If I could find the experiments, like I have this, for example, water, like, so they had to do these tasks like change sugar, float, think, and etc. And at the end, so they could write it by themselves. So this was one of the tasks. I can also, if I find very quickly, yeah. So this is how my lesson starts. So let's say, what happens when they things are mixed with water. So I start with checking the vocabulary after we have played the games and done this exercise. And then we continue with what happens if I mix oil and water. So they already do not need any explanation of what is water and oil. They don't need explanation of what is floats because I already explained it. So it makes the lesson easier. Yes. And at the end, so they did these results. Okay.
Hello.
How do you work with the shy students?
So, sorry, can you repeat, please?
How do you working with the shy students?
Shy students, that's a good question. So there are some shy students, and it depends on if they need more attention or not. Because some parents, they advise to be assertive and ask them more. However, what I understood from my experience, some children do not tolerate any pressure. So it's okay to probably wait until they get used to the classroom and etc., or ask them while they're not in the class, maybe during the break. But this was a problem last year for me, to be honest. But after some time, giving them encouragement to talk, naming them and asking direct questions to students, probably should help to talk more during the class. But I agree that was very challenging.
Thank you for your answer.
You're welcome. So is it okay?
So
the question.
Yeah, I've got the question, sorry. Aisulu, and what do you do to motivate parents to understand that science is a very important subject for so little kids? Because when they come to our school, the parents, they sometimes they don't agree that they have to study math in English or science in English. They have to learn their own language plus general English. They say such things. So how to prove that it's a very essential subject?
Well, that's a good point. I also had not the same, but similar discussion with parents. So what I told was that that this is a great opportunity for children to study not only the language, but some like science in an international level. And imagine that your children are studying the same like difficulty level of difficulty as in, for example, some European countries, in the United States, and etc. So this is very good opportunity to make their lives easier in the future when they want to apply for a foreign university. So they're already used to this standards. They're used to this thinking out of box, critical thinking skills, and it will widen their horizons in the future. And I think every parent wants that for their children. Surely this is important that they want to focus on main subjects. But I think it's every parent's actual decision. And our school is STEM, a STEM school, so with a STEM direction. So I guess most parents, they should understand that in my situation that these are the main subjects that are going to be evaluated and studied in a deeper way.
And what do you think? Should the science lesson be an optional lesson in primary school?
Well, as far as I remember, like every like in we have already this subject. It's called естествознание or something like that.
We've got, yeah.
Right. So there is an however, we can decide them to choose, because сознания is more like, when they only probably get to learn the concepts. However, the science is more practical, and they develop their skills in doing, practicing, analyzing, integrating the practical results with the theoretical knowledge, and etc. So if we present their difference and the importance of doing this to be competitive in a global, let's say, a global scale, then probably they might want to go and study science, especially Singapore science.
Okay, thank you. In fact, the Singapore textbooks are written in a very organized and clear way.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yulia, for very nice questions. Thank you, Aisulu, for the wonderful sharing session.
I think there is one question left, and it's a good question. Sometimes activities takes time more than you have planned. So is it okay, or should we follow straight our lesson plan?
Can you repeat the question, please? I had a connection problem.
Actually, it's in a chat. Sometimes activities take time more than you have planned. So is it okay, or should we follow straight our lesson plan?
Well, from the experience, this, as far as I understood, you're talking about the teaching guide, yes, that are supported by the program itself. So the teaching guide has this 5E structure, which I know that engage, explain, elaborate, evaluate, and etc. However, in practice, sometimes they don't take as much as is written there. So that's why we add more exercises to scaffold the vocabulary, other lessons, other lesson parts. And sometimes children can do some activities very quickly, and we have some spare time, which can be filled with these extra activities. So from my experience and from experience of my colleagues at our school at Quantum STEM, we don't have the problem with introducing all these things. If there are enough hours given to the subject, it's quite possible to add all these details.
I think the question was the other way around, that there's not enough time to do all the activities.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Because I guess something is lagging here. I'm sorry.
Oh, so sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, now yes.
Okay, yeah. So I guess the answer for that is it depends, Altonai. It's like if your lesson activities are taking longer, you have to make a judgment as a teacher. At the end of the day, the goal is student learning, not like finishing curriculum is important, but probably getting students to have good time, enjoy the process, and learn something is probably important. So you have to make a judgment call there. Do you stop the activity and move on to the next part of your lesson plan, or do you let the students take more time and maybe you finish your lesson at some other time? So it's really your call.
Sanjar, the last question, in the morning session, there was a good question about academically weaker students, how to deal with such students.
If you can solve this problem, you'll get a Nobel Prize, I think.
But nevertheless, we have to deal with it, right? So I just want to know the experience of our teachers.
I have an idea. Good day. I have an idea about that. And Sanjar, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Saltanat. Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm so sorry, I have a sore throat, but I can't. I would like to share my idea about that. Of course, we have low-level students and high-level students, also middle-level students. And I asked my administrators, because we are private schools and we have some advantages in it. And I asked them, maybe we will group second grade students, for example, higher level students A group, middle level students B group, and the low level students C group. In this case, for example, in science, I lead this lesson. With higher level, I work with higher level students. In math, the second teacher will work. So we will change our teachers working with high level and low level students. I mean that in this case, they will, how to say, they feel themselves very good. And there will be a competition between higher level students, and also we have time to make a clear instructions for lower level students, because in one lesson we can't deal with this problem at all. There are 20 or 19 students in our classroom, and 10 or 11 of them are higher level students and others are not so. So that was my decision, but they are still discussing about it. How do you think about that, dear colleagues?
So,
Is it?
yeah, Aisulu.
Yeah, sorry. I had a little connection problem again, sorry. Well, in our school, there was the same discussion. However, the administration didn't let us like group into levels because it's the private school, so there are their own rules, and it's not possible to do it. However, if the administration is more flexible, I think it's quite possible.
Because, you know, in a government schools, I worked in a government school for 15 years, and I had some experience there. We had 3 levels of students, and from the beginning of the 5th grade, they will be divided into 3 levels. And, you know, the levels higher, there were a lot of winners from international Olympiads. So we forced to work with them. And also we see the results with lower level students. So I had such kind of experience, and I said about that, but still discussing about it.
What about students themselves? If you divide them into groups, they eventually realize that they are lagging, and doesn't it discourage them?
No, I said like that. For example, in international schools, for example, abroad, yeah, every child choose science lessons. Well, not maybe. Science, it's okay for all the students, and we can see like that in some math. So you can feel themselves. I'm in a group. So I wish to know your opinion about that. How do you think? Is it a good way? Because that is a question for me too. I'm just ill about it.
Yeah, thank you, Sultana. Thank you for sharing. We also have a comment that parents may not like the idea that you separate high-level students from low-level students. And there are different philosophies in education. Some believe that it's actually bad for low-level students if they're separated from high-level students. So I don't know if it's a good practice or not. I know that in English, they separate by phases. So that's a common practice, but maybe based on language ability, but not cognitive ability.
Thank you, Sanjara. It's a great idea. Yeah, if you let the administration and parents that you're dividing them, but not according to their cognitive but language levels, that's, I think it makes sense. Because you remember when we met with various schools, the main question was how to manage the classroom, because some schools have 25 students per class, some more. So that was the main question. That's why I was asking this. I was very interested how our colleagues, our teachers face and deal with this. Because in Singapore, if I'm not wrong, Sanjar, in Singapore, we have 45 students per class, right?
That's true. Yeah.
But they are drilled in other ways. Yeah, they are just starting. But you know, in our mentality, our children are so naughty.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, can I add? Another point is that they didn't have the proper preschool preparation as in Singapore, probably. That's a big difference as well. Sorry.
I completely agree at this point.